Madonna, che capelli che c'ho. Aren't you tired of those tutorials where, after 15 minutes, you're still talking about functions, theory and so on, but you haven't learned anything fun yet? If that's the case, you are in the right spot. Hi, I'm Lauro and today we're gonna dive straight into Blender. The thing is, I love 3D modeling with my MacBook Pro, but in my tutorials, you're not gonna learn the theory. There are already too many videos online you can go check out, but we will go straight to the shortcuts that make things happen. We will cover the basic software setups and add-ons, placing image references, fully modeling a standing desk, applying realistic materials, setting up lights and cameras, and last but not least, rendering images and animations. So let's get started. First thing, we need to find a standing desk to replicate. So let's type FlexiSpot E7 Pro on Google and we click on this link. Then, under the spec sheet, we select the E7 Pro manual, where we have all the drawings we need to build our 3D model. Feel free to download it yourself, but bear in mind I will create a folder for you where you can find all the references. The next step is to download the last version of Blender. Simply opening your browser, typing Blender on the search bar, clicking the first result, download, and download again the Apple Silicon version. Now it's time to install the application. Simply open the installer and drag the icon into the application folder. Then drag and drop it again in the dock bar for an easy access. And we finally open it. If it's your first time, this is what you'll see. Simply click on General to start a new project from scratch. The mouse icon in the bottom is going to show you every key I press to make your life easier. In order to orbit around, just click and hold the scroll wheel. To move laterally instead, press Shift plus holding scroll wheel. The first thing we do is to select those two symbols up there, the camera and the light. We press X and we delete. Let's move to the lateral panel, clicking on the render icon. We switch from Eevee to Cycles, from supported to experimental, and from CPU to GPU compute. We then change the viewport max samples to 32 and the render max samples to 300. Output icon, and we change the render resolution to 3840 by 2160. Color management, override, and look to high medium contrast. Scene icon, units, length, millimeters. It's time to activate the snap option, clicking on the horseshoes icon and selecting vertex. Edit, preferences, navigation, and we flag orbit around selection and depth. System, and we make sure only the GPU is selected and not the CPU. Add-ons, we type node and we flag node wrangler. File, defaults, save startup file, overwrite. So the next time we open Blender, everything will be ready to go. It's time to have fun now and to start the modeling process. We select the default cube, we press X, and we delete. In order to change the viewing angle, we use the shortcut key backward, and we click on top view. Shift and scroll wheel to reposition, Shift A to open the modeling menu, image, reference. We then select our Blender tutorial folder, image references, we switch the folder view, and we double click on 01 underscore bottom view. Scroll wheel to zoom in, we rename the collection references and the object top view. Lateral panel icon data, opacity, and we type 0.15. We now need to enable a toggles, clicking on the funnel icon and flagging this symbol. Unflagging it from the object will make it unselectable. Let's start modeling the first bracket here. Shift A, mesh, cube. We press S key to scale it and we make it smaller. Zoom in, we press G key to move an object and we position it. S and Y to scale only in the Y-axis. G and X to move it only on the X-axis. With the object selected, we press Tab to enter in the edit mode and we press Option Z to enter in the wireframe mode to see through objects. At this point, we make sure this icon is highlighted, so we can select those two vertices, G and X, to stretch the old geometry, fitting a reference underneath. We orbit around to check the overall look, holding the scroll wheel. We exit the edit mode, pressing again Tab, G, Z to move the geometry on the Z-axis. We carefully check our image reference to make sure that the bracket height is the same. Edit mode, we press the number 3 and we notice the icon on the top swapped to a different position, allowing us to select object faces and not vertices. We select the top face, G, Z, and we make it taller. Exit the edit mode, select the object, Command A and scale. It's time for our first modifier. So with the object selected, lateral panel, modifier icon, add modifier, search, bevel. Of course the bevel size must be adjusted, so we decrease the amount, we type 2 mm and we increase the number of segments to 3 to make it smoother. Object selected, right click, shade auto smooth. Again to the top view with the back quote key and the number 8. Shift D to duplicate the object, mouse right click to leave it in place. G, X to move the duplicate sideways, zoom in, S to scale it properly. We orbit around, we select both objects, and we press slash key to isolate them from the rest. On the gizmo on the upper right corner, we click on X-axis to properly view the front side. Select our duplicate, G, Z to position it in the center, S, Z to scale it only vertically, select both again and slash key to go back to the original view. Top view, Shift A, Mesh, Plane, SY to scale it, Option Z, GY to properly position it with the reference, SX to scale it once more. We select now the main bracket. We collapse the modifiers previously applied, add modifier, search, mirror, select. Click on the eyedropper, select the plane as a mirroring reference, and we flag Y on the axis options. Top view, select main bracket 001, collapse modifiers, add modifier, search, mirror, select. The select X-axis, eyedropper, select the plane, flag only Y-axis. We no longer need the plane visible, so we hide it clicking on the eyeball icon. Now I want to apply the mirror modifier to the main bracket, so arrow down, apply. Edit mode, I position the cursor on top object and I click L key and I do the same thing to the bottom one, G, X, and I align them to the reference. It's time for the short brackets. Shift right click to position the cursor in the middle, Shift A, and we pick the cube. Zoom out, S, and we scale it. Zoom in to make sure all the sides fit the reference. G, X to position it, edit mode and Command R to make our first loop cut. We position it with the lower reference, Command R again, and we position it with the upper reference. Let's check the thickness comparing it with the image reference. We need to make it much thinner. S, Z to scale it. G, Z to position it in place. Much better now. Top view, edit mode, wireframe mode, press 1, select the 2 vertices, E to extrude it over the reference, SY to converge the vertices. It doesn't look very smooth. We must do something. Let's select it, press slash key to isolate it, Shift A and scale. Tab to enter the edit mode, press number 2 to enter the edge selection, and we start selecting them one by one. Command B to apply a bevel, and rotating up or down the scrolling wheel, we can easily add more segments, generating a radius effect. Exit the edit mode, right click, shade auto smooth. Still not enough, we must apply a modifier. Add modifier, search, bevel. 3 segments, 1.5 mm. Slash key to go back to the main view. Wireframe mode, Shift right click in the center of the circle to position our cursor. Shift A, cylinder. Zoom out, S to scale it. Slash key, and orbiting around we notice the cylinder didn't go completely through the object, so we select it, S, Z to scale it. Right click, shade auto smooth. We need a hole in this bracket, so we select it, add modifier, boolean, we pick the eyedropper and we click on the cylinder. Move it up to let the other modifiers do their jobs. Arrow down, apply. Click on the cylinder, X, delete. There you go, we got our hole. Slash key, Shift D plus X to duplicate and move it in place. R, Z to rotate it on the Z axis, and we type 180. Zoom out, select both of them, Shift D plus X, and we move them in place. We select them one by one, Command J to merge them as a single object. Let's move to the support bracket. So we position as always the cursor in the middle, we create, scale, and properly position our cube. We make it thinner and we center it with the reference. We scale it, edge selection, and we pick the 4 laterals one by one. Top view, wireframe mode, Command B, and we round them up. Right click and shade auto smooth, but this time rather than creating from scratch a modifier, let's select it, select the object with the modifier we want to copy, Command L, copy modifier. And there you go, our radius perfectly applied. We need another hole here, so duplicate our geometry with Shift D and right click to leave it in place. We scale it to match the hole and we make it much thicker so we can go through the other object. We select it, add modifier, boolean, and with the eyedropper we pick the new object. Move it up, arrow down, apply. X, delete. Let's model the desk transformer. Same exact procedure we have seen so far. At this point you should be able to make it yourself. Once we have our object position in place, we switch to edit mode. Command R for an horizontal loop cut to make the handles. Command R again for a vertical one and we position it. Top view and we do the same exact thing for the right side. Number 3 for face selection mode. We select our face, top view, E to extrude until we match our reference. Number 2 for edge selection mode. We pick our edge, G, Y, and we move it. And now is your turn to repeat the same exercise on the other side. Slash key, Command A, and we scale it. Edit mode, edge selection, and we pick those 2 on one side and those 2 on the other. Command B to apply the radius, right click, shade auto smooth. Now it's time for a bevel modifier. And we go back to the main view. We put the transformer in place and we double check our image reference to make sure everything looks cool. Let's do together the lateral support, starting with a cube again and scaling it. We check our image reference and we switch to isolation mode. Shift D to duplicate it, right click to leave it in place, gizmo, -Y axis, G, X, and we type 7, G, Z, and we type 7 and we press enter. We scale our duplicated geometry, we select the original one, Command A, and scale. Now we apply a boolean modifier to build our shape. Go back to the main view. Edit mode, edge selection, and we pick those edges on this side and those edges on the other. Top view, Command B, and we make the radius. Still in edit mode, Command R, and we position the first loop cut at the junction with the lower bracket. Command R and we position the second loop cut on the junction with the upper bracket. We select both edges, G, Z, and we shape our geometry. With the edges still selected, Command B to make the radius, and we add the bevel modifier to smooth it out. Remember the plane we used at the beginning? Let's unhide it, clicking on the eyeball icon. We select the bracket, add modifier, mirror, eyedropper, we sample the plane, apply. Edit mode, wireframe mode, we select the right one, G, X, and we fine-tune the position. The leg motor box has the same procedure we have seen before. We make a cube, global scale, X scale, Z scale, positioning, copy modifiers. The angled brace has a different modeling procedure, so let's do it together. We create a plane, global scaling, wild scaling, we position it above the motor box and we enter the edit mode. Edge selection and we select this side and the other side. E, Z to extrude vertically. Select only this edge. E, Y to extrude it horizontally. And the same thing on the other side. Never forget to scale our object, otherwise the modifiers will not work properly. Add modifier, solidify, and we reposition it vertically. We flag even thickness. And we make it thinner to 5 mm. Edit mode, edge selection, and we select those edges on this side and those two in the other. Command B to apply the radius, shade auto smooth. G, Z to position it properly, and we apply a bevel modifier. For the final touch, we switch it to edit mode. Edge selection, and we select edge 1, 2, 3, and 4. Top view, Command B, and we apply the radius. Done. And perfectly aligned with our reference. The turn of the telescopic legs. We create a cube, global scaling, positioning, scaling again, vertical positioning. Don't forget to scale our object. Copy modifiers, shade auto smooth. We enter the isolation mode, top view. We duplicate our object and right click to leave it in place. We scale to make it smaller. We duplicate it once more, right click, and we scale it even smaller. From a perspective view, we enter the wireframe mode, so we see the three legs. We position our cursor on top of them, option click to choose the object we want to select. G, Z, and we align it with the main leg, and we do it again for the last leg. Now we select the external one, G, Z, and we type 40 and press enter. We select the middle one, G, Z, and we type 20 and press enter. Exit the isolation mode. We select all three, G, Z, to properly position them on top of the angled brace. For the leg foot, we must add a new image reference. So we switch to the top view, Shift S, and we select our cursor to the world origin. Shift A, Image, Reference. Select 02_ bottom view. And we press enter. The image should perfectly overlap. Now we rename it, we make it unselectable, and we hide the old reference. Data tab on the lateral panel, opacity 0.15. And now we can model it. Shift right click to position the cursor on a middle point, and same cube creation, global scaling, Y scaling, and Z scaling. At this point we enter the edit mode, Command R, and we position the first loop cut here, and the second there. We press number 3 to switch to face selection, and we pick this face, G, Z, and we drag it down to create our shape. Command A, Scale. Select our last object and the leg. Command L, Copy modifiers. We enter the edit mode, Edge selection, and we select the edge 1, 2, 3, and 4. Command B, and we apply the radius. Back quote key, and we press the number 4. G, Z, and we align it with the leg. Top view, and we are ready to make the smaller fit. You know the process. We make sure everything looks alright. We rename every single layer, we hide our reference, and we start to duplicate our objects. Shift D, X to position it, R, Z, and we type 180 to rotate the object on the Z axis. G, X to fine-tune the position. We select the two legs motor object. Command J to merge them as a single object. We select the two angled braces and Command J again. Let's move forward in selecting all the other leg objects one by one. Top view, Shift T, and we position it. We zoom out to have a good global overview. We select all, R, X, and we type 180. Enter. We center the object to the axis origin, and we make sure everything looks good. Top view, and it's time to shape our tabletop. We make a cube, X scaling, Y scaling, positioning, Z scaling, and final positioning on top of the brackets. Don't forget to scale it and copy modifiers to make it smoother. We have only one object left out, the standing desk controller. So we switch to the top view, Image, Reference. We select Controller, Enter. We eyeball resize it and we check our image reference to have a better idea. We start with our beloved cube, Global, X and Z scaling. Command A, Scale. Command L, Copy modifiers. Right click, Shade Auto Smooth. We switch to Edit mode, Edge Selection, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Top view, Command B, and we apply the radius. R, X, and we slightly rotate it. Top view, and we create another cube for the controller support. Global scaling, positioning, X scaling, and we go to isolation mode. We increase the size of the support. We switch to edit mode, edge selection, and we pick edge 1 and 2. Frontal view, Command B, and we apply our lovely radius. We make it even thinner and we scale it once more. It's time to properly rotate it, typing 90, enter. Bottom view, new object, cylinder, global scaling. We position it outside, R, X to rotate it, S, Y to stretch it out. There you go, we have our cable. Not 100% identical, but it does the job for a beginner tutorial. Time to position the controller underneath the desk. Top view, G to move it, and GY to align it with the front side. We check from the bottom in the wireframe mode. We select our cable, edit mode, vertex selection, and we select the left side of the cable. GY to adjust its length until it touches the leg motor. And that's it guys, this was the first part of my beginner tutorial. I know, it's a lot to take in, so if something was not clear, just let me know in the comment down below. But most important, make sure to stay tuned to this channel, because in the part 2 we will be covering materials, lighting and camera placement, and above all making photorealistic renders and animations. Cheers guys!